All right, so for chapter 3, which is descriptive statistics, using numerical measures, we're going to talk in 3.1 about just some basics. And the words are not very difficult, but some of the notation can be a little bit overwhelming if you don't know if you're not familiar with it. So I'm going to go ahead and give the book's definition so that you know what you're reading, but I'm also going to tell you what it means in real life. Okay, so we should know that the mean, or the sample mean, okay, so I'm going to also put sample mean, is simply going to be, you add everything up and then divide by the number of elements in your set. Okay, so if I grab, add it all up, add up, and then divide by the number of things that you added together. So if I was going to, I've got 5 kids. So if I was going to add up their birth weights and find out the average birth weight of my children, I would say I've got 9.25 pounds. I would say I have 7 pounds. I would have 8 pounds. I would have, 8.75 pounds. And I would have 7.75 pounds. So that's the birth weight of my children. I had heifer babies. All right, so what do? How do I find the mean, or the sample mean, which is just another word for average? How do I find that? Sorry, I had to grab my calculator. All right, all we're going to do is add those 5 numbers up. So I'm going to go to 9.25 plus 7 plus 8 plus 8.75. Plus, what's next? 7.75. Okay, that adds up to 40 pounds, 40 3/4 of a pound. That's what that adds up to. Let's see if this works better. Hang on. It's kind of hard to see. There we go. You still can see. All right, so I'm going to divide by 5 because that's how many things were in my set. And that means the average birth weight of my children was just over 8 pounds. 8.15 pounds. I'm not doing ounces, I'm doing pounds. So that's the average weight. Now, what does that look like in math speak? In math speak, it's going to look like this. We have the sample mean, which we're going to read as bar X. Okay, and that little bar tells me it's a sample. It's nothing special. And what it says is, to find it, I have this funny symbol, and then I have X sub, S-U-B, like submarine, X sub I over N. Okay, so when you see this funny little symbol, it's called a sigma. It's a Greek letter, capital letter sigma. So it says add everything up. So this says add all of your X's up. And I is just going to say, so that whatever one it is. This would be I sub 1. So this is element, X sub 1. This would be X sub 1. This would be X sub 2. And then we get sick and tired of saying sub, so we just say X1, X2. This is X3, X4, and X5. So what this tells me to do is take all of the X's, and this symbol in math says add them all together. So I'm going to add all of those values together and then simply divide by the number of elements you have. Well, I've got 5 elements. So I found out that this average, I shouldn't write an 8 there, sorry. This was 40.75, okay? So my top number is 40.75 because I added it all together. And now how many do I have? I've got 5. So bar X, or my sample mean is just another word for average, is going to be 8.15 pounds. Okay, so now we know how to figure out the mean. The median is the middle number once you put them all in order from smallest to biggest. So instead of me recalling this is my first child's weight, this is my second child's weight, and so on and so forth, I am going to now figure out the median. Okay, so the median, first thing I got to do is put them in order. So the smallest I've got is a 7. The next smallest I've got is a 775. The next smallest is 8. The next smallest is 875. And then my large child is 9.25. So now these are in order. Okay, so from small to big. And I have an odd number, which is great because the middle number is 8 pounds. So my median was 8. My mean was 8.15. Okay, and that's going to be important later on as we start applying this stuff. So which do we want to pay attention to? Do we want to pay attention to the mean or do we want to pay attention to the median? Okay, now what happens if you have an even number? So let's just say I found a dog and I decided to consider it one of my children. And that dog is 6.5 pounds. So this is not in this up here, okay? But now I have an even number. How do I figure out the median if it's the middle number? You're going to take the two middle numbers and take their average. Okay, so how do I do that? I'm going to add up those two middle numbers since I don't have a dead middle number. So 8 plus 7.75 gives me 15.75. I know you can't see that. And I'm going to divide that by 2. And that gives me a median of 7.875. So 7.875. So if I have an odd number, it's just the middle number. If I have an even quantity, I need to add up the middle 2 and divide by 2. So now we know what the median is. Okay? So how do I do now? Actually, I need to introduce to you, this is the sample mean. So I'm backtracking for a second, and we use bar X to represent sample. So from this day to the end of this course, if you see bar X, you're talking about a sample. You're not talking about the entire population. If I'm talking about the entire population, okay, so everybody that lives in my house would be the entire population. Okay, but a sample would not be everybody that lives in my house. Okay, that's too big. So for a population, it's the same thing. It's the same process, but the way we refer to it is slightly different as far as notation goes. So we're going to use the Greek letter mu, which looks like a U with a little front tail. And I say M-E-W. It's mu. Okay, it's a lowercase mu. And then how do I do that? I'm still going to take the sum of all of my elements, but this time I'm going to divide it by capital N, which simply means all the number in the population. Notice that this is a sample, so it's a smaller value than what the population would be. So we use a lowercase n. Okay, this is the total population, so we use an uppercase n. It's still add it all together, divide by how many you have. That's still the process. So we've done sample mean, we've done population mean, we've done median, and now what we would like to do is look at, where'd my list go? Sorry. I want to look at, so I did the mean, I did both sample, and I did population. And I ran out of room. Dadgummit. All right. Sample and population. Median is the very, very middle number. So I'm going to look at mode. Okay, mode is how often it occurs. Oh, dadgummit. How often it occurs. But your mode is going to be the most frequently occurring. Okay, so let's look at the ages of my children. I have a 22, a 20, I have a 19, I had to think, I have a 17, and I have a 16. So let's break this up into teenagers and not teenagers. So if I have teens and 20s, okay, well, I've got a 16 and a 17 and a 19. And then for the 20s, I got a 20 and a 22. So what's my mode? What's the most frequently occurring? I have the most teens. Teens are the most populated demographic in my household as far as kids go. Okay, so it's the most frequently occurring is your mode. What if you have a match? What if you have another set? So let's say I had kids. Let's say I had small kids. And this is for pretendsies, okay? So I have an 8, a 9, and a 10. Well, now I have two subsets of my children that have the same number of occurrences. They have 3 occurrences. They have 3 occurrences. So what's my mode? My mode is still 3. Okay, because that's the most frequently occurring. You would just have it occur twice. So we know what mean is for sample. We know what mean is for population. We know that median, if it's an odd number of occurrences, you just take the middle number. If it's an even number of occurrences, you're going to take the 2 middle numbers, add them together, divide by 2, and that's your median. Your mode is simply the most frequently occurring. So you're going to measure how often something occurs, but your mode will be the one. And if you'll notice, I'm making like a little bar graph, okay, so I can see who's tallest. I need to know what the greatest amount is. So the next thing that we want to look at is going to be our weighted mean. And that actually is a way that we figure out grades, believe it or not. So the weighted mean, and I'm kind of creeping close to 15 minutes, and I try and keep it 15 minutes or under, so I'm going to pause while I write this down. All right, so the weighted mean, like I said, it's how we do our grades. It just dawned on me you can't tell when I pause or not. Anyway, so the weighted mean is simply going to be some things have more influence than other things. So how do I read this? First of all, let's go closer. All right, this says that the weighted mean is going to be the sum of, and then this is going to be multiplication. So it's going to be the weight of each individual item times the value of the item. And we're going to divide that by the sum of the weights. Now, when I'm talking about weights, I'm not talking pounds or grams or tons or something like that. I'm talking about the mathematical value of how it's weighted. So let's just make something up. Let's say I'm going to make 3 purchases at Walmart, okay? And I'm going to buy 3 different types of meat, okay? After I just said it doesn't have to refer to pounds. All right, so purchase 1 is I paid $3 a pound, and I bought 15 pounds, okay? Purchase number 2 is $3.50 per pound, and I got angry at the price increase, so I only bought 12 pounds. And then the third one, I paid $2.90 per pound, okay? And then I was excited about that price, so I bought 20 pounds. Okay, so 3 different times. So this was cost per pound, and this is how many pounds. So the first thing I need to do is I need to multiply across so that I know the top part of my fraction when I'm figuring this out. So 3 times 15 is going to be $45 is what I spent on meat on the first time. 12 times $3.50 is going to be $42 on my second trip. And then 2 times $2.90, or 20 times $2.90, sorry, is going to be $58 on my last round. Okay, so what did you do? You took the quantity times the cost per pound and got that answer. Quantity, cost per pound, got that answer. Quantity, cost per pound, got that answer. So my numerator is I'm going to add all 3 of those up. So 45 plus 42 plus 58 is going to be 145. So in this case, I spent $145. Okay, now what does that mean as far as how do I make it a weighted average? A weighted average. I am then going to add up the number of pounds that I bought. Okay, so this is cost. Now I need to find out how many pounds I bought. So how many pounds did I buy? Because remember that we're not dealing with cost. All right, so we've got 15 plus 12 is 27, 37, 47. So I'm going to divide this by 47. Okay, so this reflects how much I paid. The top number is how much I paid. The bottom number is going to be per pound. So I've got 145 divided by 47 is going to be, I averaged $3.09 per pound. Okay, that's the average cost of my 3 trips to Walmart. And it's weighted because I had to pay different amounts for different pounds. Okay, and again, we're going to have an example later where I show you how that affects your grades. How do we figure out your grades? What does it mean that you have a 3.25 GPA? So we'll come to that later. We also still have not quite covered the mean growth rate or how to do percentiles. So on the second video, I'll do those and then we'll do some examples.